Hello and welcome to another episode of the Borderline Dad podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. If you don't know, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and depression. I have two kids, one with autism, one with dyspraxia. In starting this whole podcast journey, my initial goal was to share my experiences, my stories, my thoughts and feelings on things, and make other people feel not so alone. I know what it's like to feel absolutely, completely, utterly alone and misunderstood, and like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and I never want any other person ever to feel that way. So my goal is to do the best that I can to make that happen, to make people feel not so alone. Eventually, after a few months, I moved into other areas of mental health. I talk about self-care, I talk about triggers, I talk about a lot of different things, talk about various disorders. Now, I want mental health to be taken as seriously as a black eye, as serious as a broken bone, a burst appendix, something like that. I also want to erase the stigma around asking for help, reaching out to a friend or a family member or a professional. I want to thank you all for being here today. Whether it's your first time or your 1,000,000th time, I really do appreciate you being here. It means more to me than I could ever accurately express. I hope you enjoy the episode, and again, thank you for being here. Hello everyone, and welcome to my first podcast. The Borderline Dad is my name, and I have borderline personality disorder, or BPD. Anytime you hear me mention BPD, that's what I'm talking about. Borderline personality disorder, also known as emotionally unstable personality disorder, or EUPD, is a mental illness, often categorized by a long-term pattern of unstable relationships, a distorted sense of self, strong emotional reactions. There is often self-harm and other dangerous behavior. Those affected may also struggle with feelings of emptiness, fear, abandonment, and detachment from reality. Symptoms may be triggered by events considered, maybe normal to others, but to us, it can be quite different and very difficult to manage. The behavior typically begins by early adulthood and occurs across a variety of situations. Substance abuse, depression, eating disorders are commonly associated with BPD. Approximately 10% of people affected by BPD die of suicide. The suicide rates for BPD, I believe, don't quote me on this, it's like 70 to 80% of people who have it will attempt it, or at least have thoughts, and then 10% of people will actually succeed. I am also a single father of two children, both with disabilities of their own. My son has dyspraxia, which is a neurological disorder that I'm still kind of researching myself. My daughter she was diagnosed with nonverbal autism, but she's going to a special school that really has helped her vocabulary just explode. I love seeing my kids grow and develop. Like I said, I'm a single father. I'm raising them both myself, and it is genuinely the most rewarding job I've ever had. For the longest time, I felt like I could have so much to offer the world by telling my stories. I have a YouTube channel that I'm going to upload to eventually. There's no videos on there right now. It's just Borderline Dad. And the profile picture is like of a brain scan of someone who has BPD. Many people have inspired me to start blogging, to start podcasting, and eventually the YouTube channel. By sharing their own stories, putting their lives out there, just not caring what people think. They give zero fucks. At the end of this podcast, and it's going to be a short one because this is kind of an introductory one, I'll be providing links to some of the social media sites that my influencers use. Before I go any further, I do have a blog. It is being hosted for free on WordPress. So if you go to, it's all lowercase. If you go to BorderlineDad, that's BorderlineDad.wordpress.com, WordPress.com, you will find my blog. Currently, I only have 3 entries just because I'm very new at this. So there you can find actual links to the people that I'm talking about. These people are in no particular order. So it's not like if I mention one person over the other, it means I care about them more. I'm only going to be listing 3 examples because I could genuinely go on forever. And I had to pick the 3 people that solidified solidified and made me really, go, okay, this is what I'm going to do, because before it was always, oh, well, I don't know if I should do it, but these people really have inspired me. If also, I'm horrible at punctuations. So if you go to my blog, you may notice that I do my best, but my punctuation game is very weak. All right, so Shane Dawson is one of my earliest inspirations. I can sit here and honestly say that I have followed this man from the very beginning of his career. Before he, blew up as big as he has, before, the makeup line, the clubs with Jeffree Star, before it all, when it was just him, like, in a closet with the emo hair, just chatting away. He had all these funny, silly characters, and he was the first person that I really watched on YouTube, like, in general. It was him and maybe one other person. I wasn't really big into the internet, as I am now. But I really genuinely couldn't be more impressed by how far he's come, all that he's accomplished. He has never shied away from who he really is. His own struggles with mental health, body issues, sexuality, have all been posted online for the world to see. He is someone that I greatly admire, and I hope to meet him one day. I hope to meet him and Ryland because I'm also a fan of Ryland, but, Shane is he's the OG for me, the OG inspiration. Another person that you may have heard of, her name is Tiffany Jenkins. She does Juggling the Jenkins on YouTube, Facebook, all these social medias. She's another inspiration of mine, and she's actually the only person on this list that I've actually met. It's funny because when I met her, I didn't realize until afterwards how weird I must have come off. I was so nervous in meeting her. I met her in line. I was, we had a meet and greet. I met her. I was telling her my story, and she just, after I realized that I must have been about 3 inches from her face, wide-eyed, mouth wide open, just blah, 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 just going on and on. She also is someone who, not that these other people are not genuine, but she is genuine, in my opinion. She is not someone that's like, great picture, okay, see you later, bye. There was a long line of people at the meet and greet, and she had a conversation with every single one of them, and when I was telling her my story, she seemed genuinely interested and affected, and it wasn't that kind of fake, oh, wow, really? Like, I don't know if any parents are going to listen to this, but like, sometimes that like fake enthusiasm or like, like, oh, wow, you found a rock that's shaped like a frog or something. Oh, that's so cool. Like, I don't know. She seemed very genuine, and she's a former drug addict turned comedian and mother and all around amazing human being. She shared every aspect of her life, from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs. No pun intended. She talks, I'm not going to spoil, but she talks about how she was in a very dark place and how she kind of broke out of that. And while her videos are absolutely incredible and inspiring and amazing, if you get the chance to go see her in person, do it. Please do it, because I met her and I just wish I could hang out with her all the time. She seems like someone that you could just be best friends with, and just she's great. I could go on for ages, honestly. Perhaps I'll dedicate a whole blog or podcast to her, but for now I'll move on. The last person I'm going to mention is Dissociated, DISSOCIA, and then in caps DID. Suffers from dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder, and has put their lives on the line for the world to see. If any of my terminology is off, I apologize. I want to do my best to educate myself in other forms of disorders and personality disorders, because the last thing I want to do is offend anyone. Seriously. They have put everything online, from breakdowns to switches between alters in real time, to happy fan mail episodes, to just some seriously personal stuff. They truly do it all. And another example of not caring what anyone thinks, and their main purpose is to spread awareness for dissociative identity disorder. I hope to meet them all one day as well. Dissociated was the final channel. They were the ones that like, yep, I'm doing this tomorrow. I'm starting this. Their purpose is to spread awareness for DID and just to educate people. And that's kind of what I want to do with borderline personality disorder. I'm not trying to be one person. I'm not trying to steal anybody else's niche or anybody else's thing. My goal is to just not just talk about borderline personality disorder, but I want to talk about my experiences with it, my struggles, relationships, loss, family, suicide. I have a whole list of topics that I'm gonna go over, and I hope that you come along for the ride. And if you are actually listening to this, or if you actually do go to my blog at BorderlineDad.wordpress.com and you read my blog, if you do any of that, I really appreciate it. I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because to do this is a huge risk to me, and it is something that I never thought I would actually go through with because of some of the things I've been through. But those people are just a few examples of inspiration. Like I said, my main purpose on here is to spread awareness. Maybe in sharing my experiences and stories and how I deal with everything, I can let others know that they're not alone. I want this to be a very interactive podcast. On my blog site, I want it to be a very interactive blog. I can be reached at BorderlineDad@yahoo.com. I'll email, whatever you want. I'll talk to you. And I want it to be very interactive, as interactive as possible, I don't do video chats yet. I'm not going to do YouTube videos yet. I'm going to start with the podcast, the blog, see how it all goes, and kind of go from there. Above everyone else, though, my children serve as my biggest inspirations. They continue to inspire me every day. And honestly, I wouldn't even be here without them. I was such a different person before I had kids. And I'm going to go into like pre and post kids in another episode. But without them, I genuinely wouldn't be here. Another thing I want to say is, and this is a warning, and I don't know if I'm going to put this warning in every episode, but to protect anyone from possibly getting hurt, I'm not ever going to use real names of people in my stories. I'll probably not even use fake names. I might just use titles. I might, I haven't figured all that out yet. I have a terrible memory, which is one of the side effects of BPD. My brain is always in fight or flight mode, and it causes some serious memory issues, at least short-term memory for me. I seem to be able to remember quite a bit from my childhood, and yeah, so that's kind of my warning. I am going to be, I'm not going to be speaking for everyone with BPD. I'm not going to be speaking for, anyone in my family. This blog and podcast and everything I do is all from a personal perspective / standpoint, whatever you want to call it. I have been able to rebuild relationships that I have previously abandoned with family because I have forgiven them, but at the same time, I've also forgiven myself for not seeing things the way that they were, for you look at things differently. When you're younger, you might see something as nagging, or someone bitching at you, or someone being someone treating you like shit. But that might just be your perspective. I like to think of it as tough love. I like to kind of reword everything and put a positive spin on it. I try to see the good in everybody, no matter how hard it is. The other thing, too, is that I'm not going to be bashing anyone. I'm only going to be telling my stories from my perspective, and I'm not going to hound on it. I'm going to mention it, and then that's it. I am going to be coming out with a blog post every day, and depending on the response to this podcast, I can either do a daily podcast or a weekly podcast, bi-weekly, however you guys would like it to happen. I'm thinking of doing a podcast to accompany every blog post, so I might do that. We'll see. I don't know. It also, it depends on the feedback that you guys give me. If anyone actually listens to this, I'm not going to be using my real name. I'm not going to be using anyone else's real name. I don't want to trigger anyone. I don't want to offend anyone. I'm going to do my best, to remain neutral, and I'm going to do my best to maybe give warnings before I talk about a sensitive subject, and we'll just kind of go from there. As I mentioned earlier, Shane Dawson, you can find him YouTube Shane. You can find him at Shane Dawson on Twitter, Instagram. Tiffany Jenkins is Juggling the Jenkins on YouTube, Juggling the Jenkins / Tiffany Jenkins on Facebook, and then I think Juggling the Jenkins on Instagram. Dissociated you can find at youtube.com/dissociated. That's capital D, lowercase ISSOCIA, capital D, capital I, and capital D. The same name on Twitter and Instagram. So the last thing I'm going to say before I go is that I am going to be learning. I'm going to be learning every day. I probably am going to do a podcast for every blog, unless that would be too much. In these, you'll also hear me think out loud quite a bit. That's okay, that's what I want. I want people to be able to see and hear my thought process as it happens. And I mean, I hope that you enjoy it. And if you don't, then, I mean, that's okay too. My goal is not just to spread awareness for borderline personality disorder. My goal is just to share my stories. Single dad, 2 kids with special needs, dealing with my own mental health issues. And that's really it. I really, and if people respond to it, that's okay. If they don't, that's okay too. If you like this podcast, give it a share, give it a like. Feel free to email me, like I said, at BorderlineDad@yahoo.com. I am also at BorderlineDad.wordpress.com. I only have 3 blogs right now. So, yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I'm not going to have any kind of special intro, but at the end of every blog, I always say, always with love, Borderline Dad. So, I genuinely hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you continue to listen week after week. Subscribe, like, all that good hoopla. Check out my blog. And always with the love, Borderline Dad.